Everybody wants to be a cat.
Honestly, this one was a pleasant surprise. Korean drama continues to deliver, and this is just another movie that grips you right from the start. If you're a fan of historical sword epics, you're probably going to love this one. Set in the Joseon era, Uprising tells the story of two childhood friends whose lives spiral into tragic adversaries. Chung Yuang, please forgive me if I'm getting these names wrong, is born into slavery, but possessing insane martial arts skills, or rather learns to have insane sword skills. He finds himself in conflict with his master, Jong Ryo, who comes from one of the most powerful military families in the land. You can see where this is headed, right? Two people, bound by their past, are now on a collision course that's equally devastating and thrilling at the same time. I mean, we've seen movies like this before with similar themes, but that doesn't distract from the very real epic drama unfolding on our screens. Let's talk about the direction by Sang Min Kim. This director knows how to craft intimate emotional moments and large-scale action sequences, and that balance is something I really appreciated. The cinematography here is stunning. There's something almost poetic about the way this film is shot. The wide, sweeping shots of the Joseon landscape contrast with the brutally violent and tense combat that we sometimes get. You feel the weight of every sword strike. The clang and pang of each strike can be felt through the screens with incredible sound design and masterfully epic fighting skills. Talking of which, the fight choreography is impressive, yet it's never so stylized that it loses its grounding. There's a rawness to it. People are bleeding, limbs are flying off, and it feels authentic. It's gritty but purposeful. Each battle is more than just a spectacle. It's storytelling in motion. Not action for the sake of action, but action for the sake of story momentum. The fight scenes are brutal and elegant at the same time. Still, they don't overshadow the film's emotional core, which is the heartbreaking relationship between our two main protagonists. That push and pull of loyalty, betrayal, and honor runs throughout. Watching these two friends, who were once so close, their bond torn apart by power and fate, drives home the story's tragedy. There's a sense of inevitability about their paths, like no matter what they did, they were always destined to clash. And it's gut-wrenching to watch, but still riveting simultaneously. This is where Uprising stands out from many other sword epics that we've seen. It's not just about the action, it's about the consequences. When you think about similar films or series, you might be reminded of The Great Battle or even Kingdom on Netflix, with that gritty historical aesthetic. But this one is more personal. It leans more into the relationship between these two men rather than a grand narrative of armies clashing, which I like, by the way. But I also like what they're doing here. Think Warrior's Way, but with more heart. Or The Swordman, but focused on personal stakes rather than just the war itself. It's about survival and legacy, yes, but at its heart, it's about friendship and how war changes that. It's familiar, but in a way that feels necessary right now, like a reminder why those stories matter. The acting in Uprising is solid across the board. Chen Young, played by a relatively new face, brings a physicality to the role that makes you almost feel the weight he's carrying. But it's in his quiet moments, his eyes telling a story of betrayal and loss of innocence that really hits hard. And Jong Ryo, as the master and antagonist, is equally compelling. You can see he's torn between his duty and his lingering love for his best friend. And that internal conflict just elevates the tension between the two. When watching on screen, you can't help but be drawn in to this intensity and sorrowful story. Now, I have to give props to the costume and set design. The attention to detail is outstanding. Everything feels lived in, from the rich robes of the aristocrats, to the bloodstained armor of the soldiers. The costumes tell their own stories. Jong Ryo's noble attire reflects the status and power, while Chen Young's more rugged practical wardrobe speaks to his life as a warrior in the shadows. You really feel immersed into this world. And then there's the score. Wow, it's haunting, blending traditional Korean instruments with more cinematic orchestral swells, really adding to the weight of the story. It's somber when it needs to be, but then there are these moments where the music just soars, particularly during the big fight scenes. It never feels intrusive, always complementing the action or the emotion on screen. Something I wasn't expecting, but really appreciated, was the realistic gore. When people die in this film, like they die. They rarely die. It's not clean or glamorized, it's bloody, it's messy, and it's impactful. You're reminded constantly of the cost of these conflicts. The violence serves as a purpose in the story. It's not just for shock value, but to show how brutal it is, you get those gory, intense moments. And that's where the film hits hardest, I think. It's not just the sword fights, which are fantastic, but the underlying tragedy of these two men on opposite sides of fate. It's a familiar story, yes, but one that resonates. In a way, it's exactly what we need right now. A sword epic that reminds us of the personal cost of war and honor. The themes of friendship, betrayal, and power are timeless, but they're handled with such care here that it feels fresh. Overall, Uprising is a stunning entry into the world of historical epics. It's beautifully shot, emotionally rich, and packed with some of the best sword fighting sequences I've seen in a very long while. If you're into Korean historical dramas or just love a good action-packed story with heart, this one is definitely worth your time. I give Uprising 4 out of 5 Nicolas Cages.
You got one.
If you enjoyed this review, please share the love any way you like. If you have recommendations of a similar vibe, please let everyone know in the comments below what we should add to our cinematic lists. Thanks so much for watching this, and as always, remember, live long and Tuesday.